Just about 4 hours ago, NASA Flight Director Diane Daly gave a go on behalf of the combined ISS team to the SpaceX mission director, just saying that ISS, or the space station, was go for launch. Now, to get there, we've got a list of flight rules, basically just guidelines for all of the major systems we have to make sure are functioning on board station before we can give a go to launch another crew up there. So we're looking at everything from those core critical command and control computers, verifying we have a good communication path through our tracking and data relay satellites, ensuring that the atmosphere, all of the life support systems on board are functioning, even the mechanical systems like the docking port where this mission is headed. So we're expecting today's flight to be about a 20.5-hour journey from launch to docking, with the Crew Dragon Endeavour headed towards the Node 2 Zenith. That's the space-facing port on the top of Node 2, the Harmony module on board the station. And once they get there, they're going to get welcomed by the Expedition 67 crew, which is made up of 7 individuals right now, 4 from our SpaceX through Crew 3 mission with 3 NASA astronauts and 1 ESA European astronaut, and they're joined by 3 cosmonauts that just arrived on station about 2 weeks ago. Now, so it's going to take them about 20.5 hours to get there. That docking right now is targeted for 11:45 GMT on Saturday. That's 6:45 a.m. here in Houston, 4:45 for the teams over in Hawthorne. And so once they get there, they'll be able to get out of their suits on board the Dragon spacecraft, while the team on board station moves into what's known as the hatch operations. Station Commander Tom Marchand is going to be pressurizing that small area between Dragon and the station hatches, and we expect it to be a little under 2 hours from docking to hatch open, and then we'll welcome the AX-1 crew on board the space station. So a lot to come with that 20.5-hour journey, but all that's going to start with a launch. So I'll send it back over to Hawthorne as we get into the final phases of the countdown. Back over to you, John.
Right. Well, Dan, as you mentioned, it all starts with the launch. And Kate, it's looking like it's getting pretty busy here. People are excited about seeing a launch, right?
Yeah, we're just now under 20 minutes until liftoff. As you could probably tell by the noise, the crew here, excuse me, the crowd here in Hawthorne, we're at SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, California, is starting to gather just beyond mission control here in the building. And you might be able to tell by the ambient noise, in addition to the live production noises that you also hear. You know, we are in a rocket factory. But yeah, you can see there the crowd is starting to grow behind the team there at Hawthorne Mission Control. Now, we saw Dan speaking earlier from Mission Control in Johnson. There is a Mission Control Center in Florida where the SpaceX teams are also gathered in Firing Room 4. And then we have the Mission Control Center here. There's a shot of our Firing Room 4 there in Florida at Cape Canaveral. You can just barely make out Pad 39A there in the distance there through the window. Might be wondering why all the different mission control rooms. The one in Johnson, as Dan was saying, you know, that's really mission control for the International Space Station and those operations. The control room that you see there is for everything leading up to launch. As soon as Falcon 9 lifts off, responsibility and control transfers to Mission Control Center here in Hawthorne. So just a quick explanation for why so many rooms with computers.
Exactly. Yeah, and in addition to all the teams gathering here, we've got teams of our own gathering in Houston at Axiom headquarters. You can see there on your screen Axiom Mission Control with the lovely Axiom family behind them looking in proudly. All right, well, you know, Dan mentioned that, you know, first we have launch, then we got rendezvous and docking, and then we've got 8 days of jam-packed activity on the ISS.
So busy.
Yeah, and docking day is it's not just a ride to space, right? You get up there, you open that hatch, and crew is working. I got a little chance to look at some of their timeline, and as soon as they open that door, they are getting invited in, they are getting trained on some emergency procedures, and then stepping right into payload activities, stowage transfers, and just generally getting acclimated, but they're working before they go to sleep, and the work doesn't stop there.
It sounds a lot like everything leading up to launch itself. Everything is scheduled, planned. Even, we know that even sleep time is scheduled on the ISS. And something that's incredible to me is that not only do you have work to do, but, your science experiments and that kind of stuff, not only do you have to get some sleep,
or you can,
you also have to exercise, right?
Yeah.
The exercise time, which can be a couple hours.
Stage 2 LOX load has started.
All right, so good news there. We have begun LOX load, liquid oxygen loading on second stage. So that is currently underway for first and second stage, as well as loading of RP1, which is our fuel on both first and second stages.
Right. Right, and again, some of those things that he talked about, it's all following a timeline, right? And we are listening for those important cues along the way that we're hearing on these nets or on the loops, listening for where are we along in that timeline, so we know exactly where we are in terms for launch as we count down at just T-minus 15 from launch.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my dashboard here. It looks like fuel load on second stage is now complete. So we're beginning that LOX load, as we just heard. LOX load and fuel load continues on first stage. Axiom crew continuing to wait, following along with everything happening there with the touchscreen displays there above them, as well as their tablets strapped to their legs.
Right.
Everything continuing to look nominal for liftoff in just about 15 minutes.
And as we approach that liftoff, in these final moments of our countdown to launch, Axiom Space founders Cam Gaffarian and Mike Suffredini wanted to take a moment to reflect on this mission.
Well, this moment for me and Michael is a very special moment in a beginning of many beginnings, right? The launch of AX-1 going to International Space Station as part of our journey to build the first private commercial space station. And we're so grateful to be here and delighted at this moment as part of this incredible journey to commercialize and privatize low Earth orbit.
On behalf of Cam and I, we'd like to thank the entire team that's made this historic journey possible. The SpaceX team in particular has done a tremendous job of prepping our crew for a launch on their transportation vehicle. The crew itself has done a fantastic job of getting themselves ready and planning their research. NASA, of course, we can't do this without NASA's leadership and support. And to each of you in the Axiom Space family, we couldn't have done it without you. We're looking forward to a bright future together.
T-minus 14 minutes, 7 seconds, and continuing to count down. Everything is still looking good for launch of Falcon 9 and Dragon. That'll occur 17 minutes and 12 seconds after the hour. As a recap, Falcon 9 began propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes. We just heard loading of the RP1 fuel. The kerosene fuel onto stage 2 was completed right on time at T-minus 20 minutes. We've still got fuel going onto the first stage. Looks like we're about 90% or so full right now. Fuel loading will finish up at T-minus 6 minutes, and we'll hear that call out in the countdown. Meanwhile, densified liquid oxygen is continuing to load onto both the first and second stages. First stage will close out at T-minus 3 minutes. The second stage, we just began loading liquid oxygen at T-minus 16.5 minutes just a few minutes ago. That'll wrap up at the T-minus 2 minute mark. Now we load the liquid oxygen as late as we can in the countdown. It's densified, that means it's ultra cold, well below the boiling point of liquid oxygen. That lets us put as much as we can on the vehicle for performance, and getting it on board the vehicle just before liftoff means it won't warm up, where you start to lose the ability to put liquid oxygen onto the stages, into the tank. In the quantities we want. So it stays nice and cold, it doesn't bleed off, and that gives us the performance we need on Falcon 9. Continuing on, Falcon 9, checkouts of the thrust vector controllers, what we call TVC wiggles, you may hear that term, they're coming up. We're also going to be doing throttle valve checkouts on the Merlin engines. That helps control the power of the engines as we go through flight. For example, you hear a throttle down or throttle up as we prepare for the period of maximum dynamic pressure. As we come up on the 12-minute mark, the range continues to be go. Roadblocks are up, all the hazard areas are clear. Airspace, sea space is good. The weather is go. Beautiful shots you can see here, blue skies. I'm looking forward to some great views from the cameras as we head into space. And then finally on the Dragon side, the Dragon mission director and team, they're reporting no issues. We've done the communication checkouts with the crew. You can see the crew access arm has retracted into the launch position. You can see Dragon now with the strung back of the transport erector, and the umbilical is going to Dragon alongside of it. We've also armed the launch escape system, and obviously the crew is strapped in the Dragon capsule and they're ready to go. Final instructions of the crew will come in about a minute and a half at T-10. We'll listen to that. The crew displays will be configured for launch, and that setup will give the crew insight into how the launch is proceeding, and it provides constant updates on vehicle health. At T-5 minutes, we'll be in the terminal count for Dragon. Dragon will transition to internal power, going to its onboard batteries and off of the external ground power. We're going to hear continued callouts on the countdown net as we go from T-10 to 0, and then as we fly after T0 and liftoff, we'll hear callouts as we head into space. And that'll be letting the crew know as they reach each of the milestones. Now, next big event coming up at T-10 minutes is we're going to do launch commit criteria, and final instructions will be going to the crew. One other thing that you will hear is during ascent you may hear 1 Alpha, 1 Bravo, 2 Alpha. These are launch escape states. As the Falcon 9 flies, if a launch escape was required, the crew on board knows where they are passing various points in the countdown, and that would tell Dragon what sequence of events to execute to come off of the Falcon 9 and bring the crew back safely down under the parachutes in the ocean. Right now, T-10 minutes. Let's listen in to the countdown now.
Dragon, SpaceX, confirmed crew displays are configured for launch.
SpaceX Endeavour, we confirm they're configured.
Copy MLA, and on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, we're honored to have you aboard Endeavour for its 3rd flight to the International Space Station. Axiom 1 marks a new step in commercial spaceflight and research. We wish you a great mission, good luck, Godspeed, and enjoy the ride.
Thanks for those words, Arthur. I've got a few of my own. I'm going to let my crewmate Eitan say it first, though.
שלום. כמה ימים לפני שאנחנו מציינים את המסע הגדול שלנו לחירות, and a few minutes before launching on this journey, I wish to share with you the words of the Greek poet Constantine Cavafy that well describe the perspective of our marvelous crew. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you are destined for, but do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years. So you are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Ithaca gave you this marvelous journey. בהצלחה X1, בהצלחה רקיע.
Thank you, Eitan. I'm going to continue far less elegantly or eloquently, but as we sit here on the precipice of this new era in human spaceflight, we do so on the shoulders of professionals at SpaceX, NASA, and Axiom. We want to thank all the teams at SpaceX, Falcon 9, Dragon, the launch team, of course, closeout team, all of the folks in mission control, and of course our training teams. With NASA, boy, it's been tough. You know, the first time was always hard, and there's no playbook. It's all open field running, but with ISS program, commercial video development, and flight operations, we've learned a lot, and we'll continue to do so. We want to thank Cam and Seth for their vision, but especially all the people at Axiom for putting this mission together with the minor miracles that they perform. All of you, make no mistake, are the men and the women in the arena. Your faces are marred, if metaphorically, by the dust, sweat, and blood, and you strive valiantly. You will have no place with the cold and timid souls who know neither victory nor defeat. The crew of the great ship Endeavour is ready to sail her proudly, Arthur.
Some heartfelt words there.
Stage 1 engine chill has started.
All right, so there was the call that we have begun to chill the engines on the first stage. So what we're doing right now is flowing a little bit of the super chilled liquid oxygen through the turbo pumps on those M1D engines. There's 9 of them at the base of the first stage. And that's essentially bringing them down to the temperature of that super chilled liquid oxygen to prevent any thermal shock to the hardware. And just before that call, some really heartfelt words from Commander MLA and Mission Specialist Eitan Stiba. Really love hearing that commentary.
Stage 1 RP load is complete.
At this point in time, fuel is fully loaded on both the first and second stage. LOX loading continues on both stages.
Coming up on 5.5 minutes. Kate's let us know that we've got the fuel load complete. Next is coming up. We're T-minus 5 minutes. Dragon will be transitioning configuration for terminal count and going on its internal battery power. Everything continues to look good as we're counting down.
Dragon is in configure for terminal count.
Falcon 9 tanks are pressing for strong back retracts.
Heard the call out. We're pressurizing the tanks for strong back retract. We'll hear a sequence momentarily. Strong back is retracting. Actually, that's the start of about a 1-minute sequence. At about T-minus 4 minutes, the clamp arms that you can see there will open. And then,
back is retracted.
And then we will see the retract from there. So we've heard the call out. That's the start of the sequence. Doesn't mean that the clamp arms are late opening. It'll take us a few more seconds.
As you can hear, the excitement and the crowd is really growing here at SpaceX headquarters at Hawthorne, California. There you can see the clamp arms have begun to open. And next we should see the strong back begin to retract. This structure is what we basically use to transport the fully integrated vehicle to and from the hangar to the launch pad. And there you can see that strong back retraction has begun. Everything continue to look nominal as we're now under 3.5 minutes until launch. RP1 fuel is fully loaded on first and second stage. Should be wrapping up LOX load on the first stage momentarily and continuing to fill on second stage.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
We're under 3 minutes until liftoff of the Axiom 1 mission.
Dragon is in terminal count and is on internal power.
All right, there we heard that Dragon is on internal power. As I was saying, we're getting close. The crowds are growing. The excitement is palpable. You can see there on the left-hand side of your screen, Mission Control here in Hawthorne, California, just behind where John and I are. And then on the right-hand side, that looks like Axiom Mission Control.
That looks like Axiom Mission Control in Houston, Texas. Everybody's waving and saying, hey.
All right, at this point in time, that LOX load on first stage is complete. So the first stage is now fully loaded with all of its propellant. LOX load on second stage continues. as we've mentioned before.
Stage 2, lock load is complete.
All right, so there's that call. At this point in time, Falcon 9
Dragon is in auto idle.
Dragon is fully loaded with all of its propellants, nearly 1 million pounds of that propellant.
Next event coming
Gas
up
closeout has started.
right
Expect
now,
venting.
the gas closeouts. We finished pressurizing the storage tanks on board the Falcon 9. They gave the crew the heads up, and they hear some loud venting noises. We're also going to vent down the liquid oxygen line that carried the LOX up to the second stage. Generates a typical large white cloud of condensation around the strong back. Big event coming up now, T-minus 1 minute, all the flight computers take over. Let's listen in to the last minute of terminal count.
FTS is armed, Falcon 9 is in startup, and now controlling.
Dragon is in countdown.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
SpaceX Endeavour, we acknowledge, go for launch.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Stop. Go Falcon, go Dragon. Godspeed, Axiom 1.
Copy 1 Alpha. Downrange.
Together, a new chapter begins. Godspeed, AX-1.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
T plus 38 seconds into this historic mission, flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9.
Orange telemetry nominal. Stage 1 throttle down.
Throttling down in the preparation for max dynamic pressure.
Falcon 9 is supersonic. XQ.
Stage 1 throttle up.
Merlin 1D engines coming back up to power.
1 Bravo.
Copy 1 Bravo.
The crew calling out 1 Bravo should a escape situation arise. It tells the Dragon flight computer what profile to fly using the Super Draco engines. But everything is looking good on Falcon 9. We're getting nominal callouts from all the engineers and a great view from the ground camera and the onboard cameras.
Invac chill underway.
Beginning to chill in the second stage turbo pump in preparation for its ignition coming up in just over half a minute from now. Coming up on about 3.5 G's acceleration for the crew. We'll begin throttling down the Merlin engines to hold that level of acceleration. Next event coming up, we're going to get main engine cutoff
Stage
of the
1
9
throttle
engines.
down.
Get stage separation and ignition of the second stage engine. You've heard the throttle down call out. We're holding 3.5 G's for the crew.
And Miko. Stage separation Copy 2 Alpha. Invac ignition.
Successful stage separation and ignition of the second stage engine. On the left, the titanium grid fins beginning to slowly deploy. Great views from the first stage camera. The first stage now begins a slow flip maneuver. You can see the white nitrogen gas plumes as we reorient for an entry back through the Earth's atmosphere a little bit later in the plus count. Second stage, we see the engine nozzle glowing red. Everything continuing to look good on the second stage. We should be hearing call-outs coming up to the crew here shortly on how the trajectory is looking.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
It's what we like to hear.
Acquisition of signal, Bermuda.
AOS Bermuda, acquisition of signal. The Bermuda tracking station now getting telemetry from the second stage of the Falcon 9 with the Dragon on top. T plus 4 minutes, 10 seconds. Everything continues to be nominal. First stage coasting to apogee, and then it'll come back down for landing on the drone ship. Second stage, partway through its lengthy burn to get the crew into orbit. So Kate, 4.5 minutes in, everything continues to look good.
What a absolutely picture-perfect liftoff. We got a live view of the crew inside Dragon Endeavour. Looks like everyone is still pretty comfy. As John had said earlier, we got
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
All right, good call out there that trajectory is nominal.
SpaceX Endeavour, we copy.
As John mentioned, we got to about 3.5 Gs there.
Acquisition of signal, New Hampshire.
On the left-hand side of your screen, we can see the first stage as it is making its way back down to Earth. It's targeting a landing on our drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, which is parked a couple hundred miles off the coast of Florida out in the Atlantic Ocean. Second stage on the right-hand side, everything continues to be nominal there, as the MVAC engine is powering the second stage and Dragon Endeavour to its targeted drop-off orbit. Absolutely beautiful views of both the first and second stages.
SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
SpaceX Endeavour, we copy.
All right, so coming up in about 1.5 minutes, the first stage will execute the first of 2 burns required for today's landing attempt. At about T plus 7 minutes and 30 seconds, we'll see the entry burn begin. That's where the first stage will ignite the center engine first, and then a couple seconds later ignite 2 more engines, so a total of 3 engine burn, which will last about 29 seconds. The entry burn slows the vehicle down significantly as it re-enters back into the Earth's atmosphere. The first stage sees high drag, which scrubs roughly 70% of that velocity by the time that the landing burn begins. Stunning view where you can see the curvature of the Earth there on the left-hand side.
Dragon SpaceX, trajectory nominal.
SpaceX Endeavour, we copy.
There you can see the nitrogen gas thrusters. So that's the puff of gas that you see there occasionally. That's used for attitude control systems. We also utilize those grid fins that you see. There are 4 of them placed around the booster. And those grid fins also help steer for a precise landing, either at
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Stage 2 flight
All
termination.
right, there we can see that entry burn has begun. We are targeting a landing on our drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas today. Everything continuing to look nominal with trajectory and MVAC performance there for our second stage on the right-hand side. So we are conducting the entry burn. Previously, the booster was...
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
That entry burn helps slow the booster down. It was going about 25 times the speed of sound. So we slow it down as it re-enters the dense part of the Earth's atmosphere. The next event is second engine cutoff, or SECO 1, as you see it there on the timeline at the bottom of your screen.
Stage 2 and terminal guidance.
That's where we shut down the MVAC engine, or second engine cutoff.
Copy, Shannon.
Stage 1 transonic.
Note that our landing burn and second engine cutoff will occur about the same time.
Shut down.
All right, we got a live view of the crew inside Dragon Endeavour there on the right-hand side of your screen.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Landing burn has begun for the first stage.
SpaceX, nominal orbit insertion.
All right, great news there. Dragon Endeavour, nominal orbit insertion.
SpaceX Endeavour, we copy, and it's great to be here. 0G, and we feel fine.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy.
SpaceX Dragon launch skip system disarmed.
As you can see, this Falcon 9 has landed for the 5th time. All the while, great commentary there.
Landing confirmed.
While we can confirm the landing.
Signal Newfoundland, and also signal expected Cape.
Confirmed landing there of the first stage booster. Also, almost simultaneously, great news for the second stage. We heard that there was nominal orbit insertion for Crew Dragon Endeavour. There you can see a live view inside our Dragon. Looks like the crew is beginning to adjust to 0G. And if you look at the right-hand side corner, it looks like we can see the 0G indicator.
That was one of my... That was one of the things I really wanted to see, what they were going to bring for their 0G indicator, so I can't wait to see what comes on.
It looks, I can't quite tell, Pokemon? Maybe, okay, well, hopefully it'll come into closer view.
Yeah,
but
and if not, we'll get to ask them later, hopefully.
Yeah, great to see the crew here, again, starting to, really getting their first taste of microgravity.
Yeah.
Oh, it has ears? Oh, it's a bunny. Is that
like
Thumper?
I think it might be.
I think that's Thumper from Bambi. Love it. So right now, the second stage is basically preparing for Dragon separation. The next step now that, as we said, Dragon has nominal orbital insertion, the second stage and Dragon will separate. Views there of our MVAC engine now shut off, no longer glowing that lovely shade of orange. Right now, the second stage is about 200 kilometers above Earth. Preparing now for stage separation, or excuse me, for Dragon separation. For those of you that have just recently joined us, we had an on-time liftoff of the Axiom 1 crew. They are now in space and coming up to separation from second stage, at which point they will then begin to make their journey, continue their journey to the International Space Station. The view that you're currently looking at is inside the Dragon trunk, which, as you can see, has just separated from the second stage.
Dragon separation confirmed.
On behalf of the Falcon 9 team, welcome to space. Thanks for flying Falcon 9. You guys enjoy your trip to that wonderful space station in the sky. Do some great research for us. We'll look to see you back here underground. Now stand by for some words from LD.
And MLA and the rest of the crew Endeavour, glad we got to have some fun this morning. We'll probably be calling an early weekend over here at the Cape. Pass you over to Anna and the team. You'll be in good hands. Godspeed, Endeavour. Enjoy the rest of your flight. Cheers.
Hey, Mark, it was a lot of fun. I venture to guess we had a little bit more than you did. We thank you and your launch team, Girth, you and the Falcon 9 team. That was a hell of a ride, and we're looking forward to the next 10 days.
All right, some nice words there from a couple of key folks. Our first Quindar tone of the mission.
Yeah. I queued up right when I heard that.
There we can
expected loss of signal, Bermuda and New Hampshire.
There we can see Dragon Endeavour on its way to the International Space Station. It has separated. There's a view
Dragon
inside.
SpaceX, we had nominal dehumidifier activation and service section Draco checkouts.
There we can see over the shoulder of
SpaceX Endeavour, we copy, Arthur.
Over the shoulder, previously Commander MLA was on the left and pilot Larry Connor was on the right. Live view inside the cabin. They just got the okay to lift their visors.
All right.
All right. So we can see that everyone is in space.
Yeah.
We can see that zero-G indicator floating around. Great view there of Dragon Endeavour. Now in space with the Axiom 1 crew on their way to the International Space Station.
Yeah, I mean, this is a day of firsts. You know, this is my first time getting to participate in a launch like this. This is a first for Axiom. I mean, this is a first for spaceflight. And it's just wonderful to see such a picture-perfect launch.
It really was.
We saw the landing and we saw orbital or zero-G insertion at the same time. I mean, that was perfect.
Yeah.
It was wonderful to see. All right, well, as I just said, today's launch is one for the history books. So to punctuate this milestone that NASA and commercial companies are able to achieve together, we go now to Kennedy Space Center, where Megan Cruz is with NASA's Kathy Leaders.
I am. I'm here right now with the Associate Administrator of NASA's Space Operations Mission Director. It's so great to have you here, Kathy. Mm-hmm. What did you think of the launch?
Oh my gosh, it's always like, you know, right in the bottom of my throat. I'm holding, can't breathe.
Yes.
But what a beautiful, beautiful sight.
Yeah.
So good to see it. I want to tell everybody working Artemis 1 wet dress, we're off the range. We're off the range for Axiom 1 and we can get moving. But you always want to hear the engine cut off. You always want to hear that second stage engine's lighting. You always want to hear, you know, each of these stages, and we need to just keep carefully working through the different steps to get that crew there to the International Space Station safely.
Yeah. What does Axiom 1 represent? Axiom 1 and also future private astronaut missions to the International Space Station.
Hey, you know, NASA's original goal was to enable commercial industry. That was actually in our original Space Act agreement. And so here we are, you know, 60 years later, enabling that through our missions. And so I just feel like this is a culmination of 60 years of work for us. And here we are once again getting to see, and for the first time getting to have commercial, you know, private astronauts going to the International Space Station, and they'll get to see what our government, what they're calling professional astronauts doing their real work, but then also getting to do their work too. And it's another place where learning to peacefully work in space, I think, is moving us forward.
Yeah, so important. And you know, we just watched Axiom 1 lift off from that launch pad right there behind us. In a couple of weeks, we're going to see Crew 4 launch from that same launch pad. And then just right next to it, Pad 39B, we have NASA's brand new space launch system. Can you recall a busier time we've had here at the Space Coast? And how is Kennedy Space Center managing its new role as this multi-user spaceport?
So I think somebody else, Bob Cabana had this dream of a multi-user spaceport here. So I think he should be very, very proud of his KSE team, and Janet Petro and her team are obviously leading the way right now, because this is not easy to do. It's not easy to go make sure all of these people have all the capabilities, and are obviously working with our Air Force sister agency there too, and making sure that all these launches get supported in a seamless way. Just an amazing job.
Yeah, a lot of juggling that has to happen.
Yep.
So, you know, I just talked about SLS. We are looking forward to the moon with that launch later this year. You know, why is it still so important to maintain a presence in low Earth orbit when we're looking towards the moon now?
Because we still don't have everything figured out how to do things yet for the moon and Mars. And really the cheapest place for us to see a differential gravity environment and for the long term is still LEO.
Yeah.
And so we've got to continue to do these long duration flights, keep doing our medical protocols, keep doing our physical protocols, keep testing out our equipment through those long duration missions. It's the only place where we can do that right now.
Yeah.
And so we still need to be able to have this kind of a test bed for us to be checking out and proving our protocols, our research, our technology before you go put somebody in a rocket that's going to go to Mars, right?
Yeah.
So just like always, we prepare, we get ourselves ready, and a low Earth orbit destination is a perfect place to do that.
And again, how does us fostering commercialization efforts in space, how does that free us up to pursue these other dreams that we have as an agency?
So, you know, the administrator today in the pre-mission conference, he said, you know, we right now are doing, this is our first step. We're working with a commercial company to have them come to our International Space Station. And we're learning to work together and figuring out how to work together. And this is going to be an important step for us because moving forward, we would actually like to now be able to buy a ride and time on orbit with a commercial company to be able to have them do that. And so this is the first step of their learning from us and us learning from them. And then in the future, you know, we're going to have space station for another 8 years, but we would like by the early 2030s for us to be flipping the roles and have our professional astronauts going up and checking and doing and focusing on the research and technology we need for exploration, but allowing commercial providers to be doing the hard work of maintaining the laboratory.
Kathy, what an exciting future. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
All right, back to you, Dan.
All right, hey, thanks, Megan. It is great to see the AX-1 mission on orbit. The team here with the space station are ready. We're ready to get them on board. So their journey just started. They've got about 20 and a half hours until they're docked to the space station. Again, they're headed for the Zenith port on Node 2. That's the space-facing one on the very top. With that docking scheduled right now for 11:45 GMT on Saturday. That is just about 6:45 a.m. here in Houston, 4:45 a.m. for the teams out on the West Coast. Once they get there, we'll be able to get into all of the hatch open operations, welcome them on board. We expect the hatches to open up about 2 hours after that docking, maybe a little bit less, and then that welcome ceremony coming not too long after. So that'll do it for us for today, at least here from Houston. We're going to be joined again tomorrow by the SpaceX and the Axiom team as we walk you through the final stages of the Rendezvous, and that coverage is going to be starting at 4:30 a.m. Central, 2:30 a.m., so an early morning, my friends over there on the West Coast. So with that, again, congratulations to the SpaceX and Axiom teams for getting this crew on orbit. We'll be ready for them tomorrow to get them on board the space station. I'll send it back now to the team at Hawthorne and over to Kate.
Thanks so much, Dan. Actually, just heard in our ears just now, successful nose cone opening. All right, so that was basically the last physical step for this morning. So that we're going to start wrapping it up. Now, over the next 20 hours, Dragon will execute a series of burns to gradually raise and line up the AX-1 crew for docking with the International Space Station in what we refer to as the activation and rendezvous phase of the mission. Now, in just a few minutes, the crew will doff or take off their spacesuits to get a little more comfy for their flight and will enjoy their first meal aboard the spacecraft. At 2 p.m. Pacific, they will get ready for a rest period that will last for about 10 hours, 8 hours for actual sleeping, and a couple of hours for pre/post-sleep activities. Before they arrive at the space station, we will have two potential opportunities to chat briefly with the crew on orbit, one later this morning around 11:10 a.m. Pacific, and one early tomorrow around 12:10 a.m. Pacific. While we're hopeful one of these will work out, neither opportunity is guaranteed as they're dependent on crew schedule and ground station coverage. Now, if we're able to support, we'll make an announcement on our social media channels no later than 15 minutes before the event start time. In the meantime, be sure to keep tabs on the mission at axiomspace.com, and you can track Dragon's flight on spacex.com/launches.
Right, and as Kate mentioned, even if we aren't able to talk live with the crew, we will continue to provide updates on the mission across our social media channels. And starting at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 a.m. Pacific on Saturday, April 9th, we will pick back up with our live joint coverage of the AX-1 crew's approach and docking to station with NASA. So please keep an eye on Axiom and SpaceX social channels for updates, and regardless, we hope to see you back here at 5:30 a.m. Eastern Time for live coverage of the first all-private astronaut mission to the space station. So from all of us at Axiom Space, thank you to SpaceX, and thank you to NASA. This is just the beginning in the next chapter, and thank you at home for tuning in. We hope to see you soon.